Hey there. Recording? Okay, making sure this is a good height. Alright, I'm using the flash, so if I'm looking away from the camera or it's my Android, it's my smartphone that I got for my birthday, which is what I'm using to do these on, so I apologize. If you're watching those videos I have on YouTube of Mario All-Stars, they're all done with my phone, so I apologize for the crappiness. And it's an old TV I'm playing with anyway. Oh, it's a, like, 4-year-old TV. Anyways, this is another video blog. I'm going to share some thoughts. I'm going to go away from Nintendo for this one and only time and rant about Sony. If you know me, you know I'm Nintendo fanboy. I will be Nintendo fanboy for the rest of my life, or at least until I can no longer play video games. God, I hope that never happens. Here are some of my thoughts on Sony. Again, if I were to go off, this would be an hour and a half, and it would never load, and I'd probably piss off a few hundred people, if not more. Anybody who's viewing this who's a friend of mine who likes Sony, you may not want to watch this, but then again, I'm not going to go too far. I'm not going to go off completely. I'm just going to share a few thoughts of what's happened recently with Sony and my thoughts overall on Sony. I'm going to start with what's happened recently. If you know of the PSN hacking, or what I call Hackgate, which is a fitting title. If you know your history, you know what Watergate was about. You knew, I mean, basically, Sony knew what happened. They knew the PSN had been hacked, but until somebody had leaked it, thank God for the internet age that we live in. Until somebody had leaked it, if that hadn't happened, Sony probably would not have done anything about it until people had realized that bad shit was happening to their PSN accounts. And then the fact that all people got were choose from, like, I mean, they got like better PSN Plus or whatever service, like free month or whatever, and they got a few other little features. But for those who went over like a month or so without PSN service, had that lingering thought in their head that their ID had just been hacked and that their lives were going to be completely screwed over. And then you get to pick from 5 games if you're a PS3 or PSP player. That's great. Except they're download games only. There's no physical copies, and you're only going to choose one of the few games that they offered. So basically, if bad things have happened to you after your account had been hacked, and let's say you had sold your system and you had no ties with Sony whatsoever, with the PSN whatsoever, what did you get? I mean, 50 million PSN users were affected by that. The entire world of PSN users were affected by that. You're telling me they're all happy? You're telling me they all still have a system? How many people sold their systems? I know a few people sold their systems after that happened. A few people didn't want to have anything to do with Sony. I would definitely be one of them. I don't mean to sound like a complete dick, but if that had happened to me, I would have completely just completely dropped Sony. Wouldn't even care about them. I would wish bad things upon them, and all the aftermath of that. And then what's happened recently, if you follow all that stuff, I mean, it's just retarded. And people, Sony fans pro Sony people can go around bashing Nintendo all they want. Well, you know what? If this happened with Nintendo. Well, if something like this had happened to Nintendo, thank God the Wii doesn't have a network, a service network like PlayStation, like Xbox. But if this happens, let's say the Wii U has something like this, if there's accounts for everybody, if there's online information posted, and somehow it gets hacked, and my ID is compromised, and bad things happen, even if nothing happens directly to me, if my account gets hacked, I would drop service. I would probably be really mad at Nintendo. And I'm sure a lot of people would be too. And and then, you know, all the Sony people, all those who were all those anti-Nintendo people out there would be totally bashing Nintendo. And right now, I'm totally bashing Sony. I'm not totally bashing Sony. I don't. It's not the people who play the games that I don't like. I don't mind the fanboys too much. I mean, I respect them. They play the games I like. I play the games I like. You don't like my opinion. I don't like your opinion. I mean, that's basically how it is in this world we live in, especially on internet forums. I mean, you pretty much just try to. Anyways, but off topic, little self information there. But I mean, if you're gonna that stuff's gonna happen to Sony. I mean, I don't know how anybody could back them, and all this crap that's happened since then. I mean, positive Sony point of view here. I mean, I had a PlayStation back in 2002 from April of '02 to the end of '02 till I got a GameCube for Christmas, which is a much better system. I love my PSX though. My PS1 is the small white one. Only problem was, well, I got it for $30. Only problem with it was that the lid didn't shut all the way, so you had to keep slamming it until the thing shut. And it was really dumb because there was no reset button; it was just a power button. But I mean, I loved it. I had some good games for it. I remember having a lot of fun memories playing that back in the day. Some good games for PlayStation. My friend still has this PlayStation, still has most of his games, and every now and then we'll play a few Resident Evil or Tomb Raider or Need for Speed, the good Need for Speeds. That's another discussion I can get into. Just the way the Need for Speed series has gone downhill since the PSX. But I mean, I love PS2 because he has a PS2 as well. I mean, there's some good games for it. There's really good games for both those systems. Some good games for PS3. I played a demo on PS3 at Target for Sonic Generations. I loved it. I actually played a PS3. So people out there who say my opinions on Sony are dumb or are unnecessary because I haven't played a PS3. Well, I played a PS3 now. I did like it. Granted, I was using a demo PS3 that every 8-year-old in the world has used in the past, month or so. So the controller barely responded. I liked it. Yes, I enjoyed playing a PS3. Does that mean I'm going to go buy one? No. As what somebody suggested on Twitter a few weeks ago when I complained about being bored, you should go try Arkham Asylum on PS3. I'm just going off now, so I hope you enjoy this. You should get Arkham Asylum Batman on PS3. No. I thought you liked Batman. Yeah. That doesn't mean I'm going to go out and buy a $400 system and then another $50 on a game and all the other accessories I need to actually play it and enjoy it. Yeah, no. I'm bored. I'm not rich. I don't have expendable money. I don't have disposable income. I can't go buy a new console when I'm bored. If I could, why I would not buy a PS3? I'd go buy a 3DS. And a lot of games. And buy every game I wanted. For every system I like. Anyway, I mean, I like the games, and I feel sorry for those who went through the crap earlier this year with that whole Hackgate thing. And I don't wish bad things upon those people. I just really don't like Sony. The fact that a month or so before the 3DS was launched, one of Sony's execs was bashing Nintendo's handheld family of systems, the Game Boy, the DS, calling them babysitting tools. Like, are you kidding me? They're just the most excelling lineup of consoles in video game history. The Game Boy was the biggest selling system of all time until the DS launched. Now that's second. Yes, granted, the DS still hasn't sold as many PS2s in the world, but the PS2 is gone. The DS is still being sold $100 or something like that for like the DS Lite or whatever at Target. I mean, it's the best-selling handheld of all time. The only reason the PS2 is sold 150 million units. Check Wikipedia, or check any website. That'll back those numbers. I mean, the only reason it's sold the most is because it's been around since '99 or 2000, like 2001 or whatever. I mean, it's been around for a decade, so it's gonna have a lot of units sold. Well, that was a different era, and the only reason the PS2 has a better library of games, like a certain person would go off telling you, the big guns of Sony, is because all they have is third-party titles. If they had a mainstay franchise or two of their own, Sony has the only first-party title series they have anymore, I think, is the freaking Gran Turismo, and you only get to do one of those every couple years. I mean, no, Nintendo may not have outsold any of the PlayStation 2 games back in that generation, but Nintendo had the best-selling. They had Mario and Zelda and Pokemon or whatever. You don't need 2,000 third-party titles for your system if you have the Marios and of the Nintendo standards. I mean, that's the only reason Sony ever outsells Nintendo games, is because they have so many games on the market that, we'll try this. But none of them sell that huge. I think the best-selling game for PS2 is only like GT3, and that was only like 7. I think it was barely than 10 million copies sold. That's a good number, and it outsold most GameCube games in the generation. But in the long run, I mean, no. You sell a lot of copies, but a lot of those copies are returned. You go to when GameStop had their buy two get two free thing for old PS2 games. There was a lot of games, which means a lot of people didn't like a lot of games for PS2. or they just got tired of them, or wait, they couldn't play them on their PS3s anymore because only certain few of those in the first couple years were PS2 compatible. Another reason why Sony's done. Pretty much every Nintendo system has had some sort of backwards compatibility. Even, Super Nintendo, you can play Game Boy games on. There's compatibility with another system. GameCube, you could get the Game Boy player and play GameCube, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy games on. And even the N64 had the transfer pack, so you could transfer data from a few select Game Boy Game Boy Color games onto a few matching other games. And GameCube also had the GBA link cable, so you could do stuff that way. They have compatibility, they have connectivity with their systems. GameCube games on Wii, and then Wii U's gonna have Wii support and GameCube downloads and stuff like that. Hopefully, Nintendo makes their stuff work together. Sony doesn't. I don't know why. They're pretty much abandoning the previous generation once a new system comes out. Nintendo embraces it for the most part, and that's what we're gonna see. That's what Nintendo's always done, and more consoles do that. More consoles need to do that because then they would maybe compete better with Nintendo. But back to Sony. A little more Sony before I end this one. Before it goes over 30 minutes or something like that. Before my phone dies. It's not. Yeah, again, it's not the Sony gamers. I'm a former Sony gamer. My friend's a current Sony gamer. Well, he doesn't have a PS3, but who the hell can afford one? And be comfortable playing it. I just don't like Sony. I just don't like the company. I just don't like the higher ups, the executives, because say what you will, Sony people, Sony Pro people, about Nintendo, but without Nintendo ever working with Sony to create a CD-based system, the PlayStation, you wouldn't have your PS3. Basically, if you know your video game history, know what happened at the end of the video game wars, know that Nintendo and Sony were working together in a way to topple, to get Nintendo back on top and to topple Sega. And you know that without Nintendo's contributions to what became the PlayStation, you wouldn't have PS3 or PSP. And I'm so doing another blog on the PSP on how competitive it's been with the Nintendo handhelds. Alright, so that's all for now. I might be doing another one and uploading it after this one. So Fyree TSG, if you want to get a hold of me, I'm on Twitter, Facebook, or NintendoWorld.com later.